Hi friends, it is just me for our reading today. Sorry to disappoint you. I know a lot of you loved hearing my dad's reading, but it is just me today. Good old Miss Puglisi. We are back for the next session of the one and only Ivan, and I'm so excited to read today because hopefully we continue to learn a little bit more about Ivan when he was a baby living with Mac. We know that he just was brought to his domain, and he talked about how he didn't realize how long he was going to be there for, which really made me sad the last time we read, because I don't think that animals ever really know how long they're going to be in captivity for, and sometimes it's not for a long amount of time, but sometimes it is, and that can be very sad, like Ivan, Stella, and Ruby. So today we're going to continue reading. We are on page 144 if you are reading along, and we are going to continue here. 9,876 days. Ruby is finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob, too, is snoring, but my mind is still racing. For perhaps the first time ever, I've been remembering. So now I think we're back with Ivan in present day. We're not reflecting back on his memories completely. He's talking to us just like we would talk to each other. It's an odd story to remember, I have to admit. My story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning and an endless middle. I count all the days I've lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone, although it's not particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I've forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of the magic markers Julia gave me. I make an X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look like this. I'll show you. The rest of the night, I mark the days, and when I am done, my wall looks like this. So this is how Ivan keeps track of all the day he's been with humans, and we know that he's been there for quite some time. We don't know exactly how long, but we know he was there since he was a baby. And so we can assume that if he's keeping track of every single day he's been there, he's going to have a lot of these on his wall. And so on, until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. So now we know Ivan has been in captivity and has lived with humans for 9,876 days. That is a long time. A visit. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a sharp smell. He leaves as he walks. He stands next to my domain. His eyes are red. He is staring out the window at an empty parking lot. Ivan, my man, he mumbles. Ivan. He presses his forehead against the glass. We've been through a lot, you and me. A new beginning. We don't see Mac for 2 days. When he returns, he doesn't talk about Stella. Mac said he is anxious to teach Ruby some tricks. He says the billboard is bringing in more visitors. He says it's time for a new beginning. All afternoon and into the evening, Mac works with Ruby. Ruby's feet are looped with ropes so that she cannot run. A heavy chain hangs off her neck. Mac shows her Stella's ball, her pedestal, her stool. He introduces her to Snickers. When Ruby obeys Mac, he gives her a cube of sugar or a bit of dried apple. When she doesn't, he yells and kicks at the sawdust. So he doesn't kick her, but he kicks at the sawdust, which can be very scary to a baby elephant. When George and Julia arrive, Mac is still training Ruby. Julia sits on a bench and watches them. She draws a little, but mostly she keeps her eyes on Ruby. Bob watches too. He's hiding in the corner of my domain under Not Tag. It's raining outside, and Bob does not like damp feet. Ruby trudges behind Mac, her head drooping. Endlessly, they circle the ring. Sometimes Mac slaps her flank with his hand. So if she's taking a little too long, he may give her a little slap to keep her to continuously walking. But we know, based off how the author and Ivan is explaining it, that Ruby is not happy to be doing this, because we can tell by the way she is described with her head drooping. So it's almost like she's like walking, following behind, very sad. So we know that she's not enjoying her training with Mac. Suddenly, Ruby jerks to a stop. Mac pulls the chain hard, but Ruby refuses to move. Come on, Ruby, Mac is almost pleading. What is your problem? She's exhausted, I say to myself. That's the problem. Mac groans. Idiot elephant. Idiot human, Bob mutters. Walk, Ruby, I say, although I know she's too far away to hear me. Do what he says. Walk, Mac commands. Now. Ruby doesn't walk. She plops her rump on the sawdust floor. Oh no. I think maybe she's tired, Julia says. Mac wipes his forehead with the back of his arm. Yeah, I know. We're all tired. He pushes Ruby with the heel of his foot. She ignores him. George looks over from the food court where he's wiping off tables. Mac, he yells, maybe you should call it a day. I'll close up. Mac yanks on Ruby's chain. She's as anchored as a tree trunk. He pulls harder and falls to his knees. That does it, Mac says. He brushes sawdust off his jeans. I am through playing around. Max stomps off to his office, and when he returns, he is carrying a long stick. The gleaming hook on its end, almost beautiful, like a silver of moon. It's a claw stick. Now I'm going to stop there, and I want you to think or talk to whoever's listening to you. I know Wyatt's whole family listens to our book club, which is so cool during lunch. And I want you to talk about what you think could happen with this claw stick. It's very sad and it's not a positive thing. Think about how it would make you feel. Well, if we remember from the beginning of the book, Ivan told us that sometimes in a circus, the owners can hurt the elephant with the claw stick. So we know that if Mac is doing this, although it's not justified, he may be pretty angry at Ruby, but we all agree that she doesn't deserve any type of punishment. She shouldn't even be doing all these tricks in the first place. Mac pokes Ruby with the sharp point, not hard, just a touch. I can tell he wants her to see how much it can hurt. I growl low in my throat. Ruby doesn't budge. She is a gray, unmoving boulder. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, I wonder if she might have fallen asleep. I'm warning you, Max says. He breathes out, stares at the ceiling. Ruby makes a huffing sound. Fine, Max says. You want to play it that way? He draws back the claw stick. No, Julia cries. I'm not going to hurt her, Max says. I just want to get her attention. Bob snarls. Max swings. The hook slices the air just a few inches above Ruby's head. See, why don't you want to mess with me? Max says. He draws back the claw stick again. Now move. Ruby jerks her head, flinging her trunk towards Mac. She makes a noise that sends the sawdust scattering. It makes my glass shiver. It is the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I love the way Ivan wrote that. It is the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. So she must have used her instincts to make an elephant roar, which is very distinct and can be very loud and heard from like miles away. And she was angry. She didn't close down. She didn't get emotional or sad. She's angry at him, like, how dare you treat me like this after not taking care of Stella, my aunt, appropriately, and now I'm angry at you. And Ivan felt like it was one sound that he's never heard before. It was so beautiful, but you could tell that she was very angry. And Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I don't see where she strikes him. Somewhere below his stomach, I think. And I know he must be uncomfortable because Mac drops the claw stick and falls down on the ground and curls into a ball and howls like a baby. Direct hit, Bob says. Poor Mac. Mac groans. He stumbles to his feet and hobbles off towards his office. Ruby watches him leave. I can't read her expression. Is she afraid? Relieved? Proud? When Mac is gone, George and Julia lead Ruby from the ring. It's okay, baby. It's okay, Julia says, stroking Ruby's head. They settle Ruby in her domain and make sure she has fresh water and food. Before long, Ruby is dozing, which means she's sleeping. Dad, Julia asks as George locks Ruby's iron door, do you think Mac would ever hurt Ruby? I don't think so, Jules, George says. At least I hope not. Maybe we could call someone. George scratches his chin. I wish I could help Ruby, but I wouldn't know how. I mean, Who would I call? The elephant cops? Besides, George looks down. I need this job, Jules. We need this job. Your mom, the doctor bills. He kisses the top of Julia's head. Back to work. You and me both. Julia sighs and reaches for her backpack. She removes a small piece of paper, a bottle of water, and a small metal box. Homework first, George says, wagging a finger. Then you can paint. It's for art class, Julia explains. We're doing watercolors. I'm going to paint Ruby. George smiles. All right, then. Just don't forget your spelling. Dad, Julia asks him again, did you see Mac's face when Ruby hit him? George nods. Yes, he says solemnly. I did. He shakes his head. Poor Mac. He turns away, and only then do I hear him laughing. So we know that George probably thought it was funny that Ruby hurt Mac a little bit. But I find it very interesting that Jules says to her dad, maybe we can call someone. And I think, she is someone that has been a very big support system to Ivan and to now Ruby. And I think that she has her head on straight. And I think that watching an animal be threatened like that and be treated like that can really awaken your sense of advocacy and your sense of saying, like, I need to do something. I need to stand up and protect these animals because they can't do anything on their own. And that's what this book has done for me. It's really inspired me to stop and think, like, oh, this is really important and we really need to work harder to protect animals. So today we're going to stop there. That's on page 156. And we are going to bookmark there. Before we end, I just want to talk about Julia and how important she is. I think Julia would fit right into our class because she loves animals and she is in a tough spot. So she confides in her dad and says, Dad, we need to call somebody. We need to do something. And her dad makes a very valid point. He needs the job there to take care of her sick mom and her. So if he was to call the animal police or the elephant police, he would potentially lose his job because Mac wouldn't have any animals there. What would you do? If you're in my class, I'm going to have a Google form below, and I want to see what you would do if you were Julia and George was your dad, or if you were in a similar situation where you needed the money of the job, but you knew animals were being mistreated. Would you risk your parents' job, or would you just find a way to fight for those animals on your own? I know what I would do, and tomorrow in our next video I'll tell you what I would choose to do, but I want to see what you choose to do. So if you are in my class, remember to fill out the Google form in our Google Classroom. If you're not in our class, feel free to answer in the comment section what you would do if you were in Julia's shoes, and you can follow our YouTube channel to know when new videos are uploaded, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Miss Pugz with a Z to see what's going on in our online classroom and our in life classroom whenever we get back there, and I will see you tomorrow.